This week on the iRacing Downshift, we get ready for PAX East.
Kevin, we have been lifting heavy things up and putting them down in Boston.
We look ahead to week 13.
There is no other reason for figure eight racing to exist.
And we go off the rails.
I can't believe you broke my pen.
I can't believe I broke your pen.
All this and more, so strap in.
Welcome to the iRacing Downshift. I'm your host, Greg West. I'm back with the boys, Kevin, Bobbitt, and Chris Leone. Another big week in iRacing. We had an excellent race last night in the, Chris?
eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
We also have something big coming up next week. What, Kevin?
The build?
The build!
Ah,
Oh, yes,
it.
the build.
I thought that was a trick question for a second.
Also some events going on this week, a couple of special events as well, so a lot to get to. So let's kick it right off. Chris, eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Did I do it? I did it.
You got it.
I just popped. That's all right. Chris, tell us about the race last night.
Oh, what an amazing race at Auto Club Speedway. We had a ton of changes, at the front of the pack. We had a bunch of guys just battling it out. We finally saw cautions this year. And that old adage of cautions breed cautions, but it didn't happen for too long. We had a couple back-to-back, but they got right back to clean racing. We had tons of lead changes the whole day. Burton Kligerman eSports eventually pulls it out. Ashton Crowder holds off Garrett Lowe and the Wood brothers. Garrett Lowe backing up that P2 finish that Matt DiBenedetto had at Las Vegas. So it's been a good week for the Wood brothers too. But
did you guys see the clip on Twitter of Parker watching the final
cool.
lap there
with
his boys? He was out recording for his TV show, and they had it up on his laptop. If you haven't seen it, check it out on Twitter.
I like John Wood's tweet. He's got two messages, one from Steve Myers, one from Dale Jr. Regarding or saying congratulations. So that was pretty cool. Good racing though. Not the easiest to pass. You had to be patient to complete the pass. I think the pass for the lead took 2 whole laps to complete.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, these guys really had to fight tooth and nail, and in some ways it seemed to come down to a track position race, and it's why those couple of cautions in the middle of the race really changed everything. We saw a handful of guys, about 7 or 8 guys, were trying to make it a one-stop race, and they had it played just about perfectly because right as they got through that pit cycle, first caution. So they were able to stay out with only 1 or 2 laps on their tires, 1 or 2 laps in their fuel, and they had that track position. And a lot of the guys, that made that gamble ended up coming out with pretty good finishes, even though there was a second caution right away after the fact. But they played it perfectly, and they got a perfectly timed caution to hold that track position, and it really influenced the outcome of the race.
Yeah, another great week of racing. Looking forward to the next one here in 3 weeks? 3 weeks
3
until
weeks.
the next one?
Yep.
Cool. Moving into the following up on the NASCAR, let's go right into the build. We've got a lot of good stuff coming out. This is a feature-heavy build, wouldn't you say, Kevin? We're kind of catching up on things.
Sure.
We've had a lot of content going out, but now we have a huge list of the quote-unquote little things that make the
you can't forget
better.
the Cayman. There's some content.
Well, there's
there.
the Cayman
which
is
me
large.
being the
Bury the
resident
lead.
Porsche dude, I'm super excited about that. So the Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport, super fun to drive on Alpha. One of the perks of the job, get to test these cars before they're available to the public. Super fun. That'll be part of the IMSA series, racing with the TCR
IMSA
car.
Pilot Challenge.
You got it. So some multi-class racing. I think it's going to be, we say that's about a lot of cars we release, but this one's really going to be popular. It's fun to drive. It's easier to drive than the Porsche Cup car, as you can imagine. It's more of a, I guess you'd call it a lower-level race car.
It's approachable.
It's a race car for the people. You don't have to be a world championship caliber driver to get the most out of it. So looking forward to racing that for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a nice addition to the ladder and something that's comfortable for people to move into, especially in that IMSA Pilot Challenge with the TCR, where you're not just, if you make a mistake, you're not flipped over and in a wall. You're going to lose some time.
Has that happened to you?
Many times.
More than once, huh?
Usually warped into back into the pits.
There you go.
When I crash, I do it big. Going back to the NASCAR stuff, though, we do have some cool stuff with that. New Texas, turns 1 and 2. You may not recognize them because they are updated. Greg Hills and his crew have done an excellent job on that, as they always do. And I got to turn the first ever laps on New Texas.
Impressive.
Helping with a little bit of the race control stuff. But that was pretty cool. It is different. So looking forward to seeing everybody get a chance to drive on that. As far as new content, pseudo-new content for the NASCAR series, the Cup car, the Camaro, we have updated the Cup cars to have the 2020 physics package. While the art assets are not quite in place and they will not be in place for the build, they will be in the first patch. They're just barely missing. So the A-Car Camaro and then the Xfinity Mustang, once again, both have the new physics already implemented, and the art will follow in a patch here in a couple of weeks. So pretty excited about that. That consists of the smaller spoilers and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. Also in this build, we've got a bunch of new damage. I count 6 cars with the new damage model. That's going to be a lot of fun. We may or may not tie that into Week 13. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. So we have, in no particular order, if I can read my chicken scratch notes, we have the Corvette C6, the GT1, the Aston Martin GT1. We have the TCR, Audi RS3 LMS TCR. The Porsche 718 Cayman GT4, Club Sport, something. There's a
Club Sport.
It's a longer name, and I always get them out of order.
I think you got it right. You got all the
No, you
letters
got it
there.
right.
I don't know if they're in
You
the
got it
right
right.
order, but you got all the letters. So that's
No,
So-
you got it right.
Excited to see that one come out with new damage, and that means that the IMSA Pilot Challenge, both cars will have the new damage model on it. So when you mess up, even though it is approachable,
everybody will know.
it's going to look cool. Big stuff on the oval side. We teased this the other day. The K&N car got the new damage model. That video was not fun at all to shoot. Let me tell you why. We didn't enjoy that at all on a Saturday morning. The original Ford GT, the GT2 car, that one has new damage. And I think that is it. Kind of went out of order. But a lot of new damage coming out. We're going to use that once again in Week 13. We'll talk about that here in a second. We also have a bunch of new cars that are getting an updated tire, specifically in what's going to impact people very quickly for the Sebring special event. We've got the GTE cars and the GT3 cars all getting the updated tire. Really excited about that. Those cars are also getting updated baseline setups. They're going to be more competitive now, a lot more balanced. It's a great place to start. You're probably not going to win a world championship race on them, but our staff has done an excellent job building more competitive setups for out-of-the-box racing. So very excited about that. And along with the build, we have another edition of the iRacing Week 13. Fun and exciting week of racing on iRacing. Kevin, why don't you give us a recap of what Week 13 really is?
It's a good opportunity to explain Week 13 to anybody that doesn't know. We sometimes gloss over it. So we have our 4 12-week series throughout the year that most people are familiar with, and then we have this week in between. We call it Week 13. Racing is kind of modified. There's not nearly as much official series. There's a couple. There's a lot of what we call fun series that don't count towards licensing and that sort of thing. But the reason we do this is because we plan to do our updates that week, and we don't want to interfere with a bunch of downtime if somebody's competing for a championship. So that's the reason behind Week 13. They happen every 13 weeks, as you can imagine. And that starts Monday night when it rolls into Tuesday of next week. Greg, you've got the schedule of what we're going to be racing, though, right?
Yeah, we have the typical official stuff that is always going on, even in Week 13. So you have your 13th week street stock, NIS fixed open, the regular NASCAR iRacing Class B and Class C stuff is still there. On the road side, the Mazda MX-5 Cup, BMW GTE Challenge, which is in Week 13. That's what's called. In the other 12 weeks is the BMW 12.0. And then we also have the Porsche Cup Series featuring the 911 GT3 Cup car. As far as the fun series stuff goes, the typical stuff, Pickup Cup, Delara Dash, Carburetor Cup, that's always around. The fun series that you guys are looking forward to, though, we'll just read them off here. We have the iRacing Figure Great. Chris, what is the Figure Great?
Well, you don't get too many chances to do figure 8 racing here on iRacing. I mean, look, we're a simulation. We do tend to take ourselves seriously, but, again, to echo Kevin's point, I mean, this is where we have some fun, and figure 8 racing is nothing if not fun. There is no other reason for figure 8 racing to exist, especially not in the real world, because, let's be real, you get T-bone in a figure 8 race, you're going to feel it. But, oh, man, figure great racing. What do we have for the cars for figure great this time around?
All right, we've got on the new damage model, the Corvette C6 GT1, Aston Martin GT1, and the Ford GT2. Yes, we understand that this is a small track and these are fast cars, but It's ridiculous.
There's
going to
be a lot of parts floating around in the infield there.
Sports car figure 8 racing. This is like a Humpy Wheeler fever dream.
I don't even know what that means.
Come on, you know Humpy Wheeler, the old promoter at Charlotte, the guy who put on the bus jumps. I mean,
yes.
Yeah, come on, Humpy's a legend.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave that one alone. We also have the first edition of the Michelin Pilot Challenge, so we're going to get your first taste of the Audi TCR against or on track with the Porsche Cayman GT4. These are a little bit shorter. These are 15-minute races, just to get a feel for it. So you'll have those. We're bringing back Week 13 Ridiculousness, which is as ridiculous as it sounds. The 3 cars for this edition: the Global MX-5, the Radical, and the Williams Formula One car. So closing rates are going to be a thing.
It's too bad the Formula One car does not have headlights to flash at the MX-5 that's in the way.
Oh, well, that might be for the best.
The Moving Chicane World Championship.
Yeah, there you go. We also brought back, by popular demand, the tube frame twister. It's going to have the K&N in it. Also new damage. And, yeah, good luck trying to keep that thing straight. So that should be a good time. On the dirt oval, we still got sling mud for fun on the sprint cars, as well as the 13th week midget cup. And on the dirt road, we're doing the 2x4 off-road trucks, and we got the Pro 4 and the Pro 2 and multi-class truck racing. 24 trucks on the track at once. Nothing bad could happen there.
It'll be good. I promise.
Oh, I love the
promise.
Challenge Cup races, real world and on the service. It's just so fun to see Pro 2s and Pro 4s mixing it up. But how about that tube frame twister track selection? What tracks do we have for that?
I don't know. I wrote the schedule and don't remember.
Because I think it was the Cup road courses, was it not?
It was a Cup road
including the
courses.
Charlotte Roval?
Yeah.
Oh, I am looking
remember.
forward to seeing
I'm
the
intrigued.
Yeah, I am looking forward to seeing the best video of somebody shooting the K&N car, taking turn 1 as if it's oval turn 1 instead of road course turn 1. I want to see if somebody can run straight into that, launch the car over the barrier, and just continue forward.
Chris, don't give him ideas. Don't give him ideas.
Come on, I'm trying to make Alex's job easier.
Oh.
That could be a not top 10 clip right there.
Yeah.
Could be. Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote a couple of these schedules, and I did not remember that I actually had a method to my madness on the selection for those tracks.
How about this? I'll put iRacing credits on the board for anybody who can manage to hit that wall head on, jump over it, and keep rolling.
I mean, it can't be done with a new damage model. See, I'm comfortable with that. I'm
Okay, deal.
absolutely-
First one to do it. How's that?
First one to do it.
You have to complete the next lap?
I just want to see you bounce over that big turn 1 wall. What is it? The Tums Heartburn turn
Something
of the
like
Roval? Yeah, I want to see somebody get over that wall in the K&N car and continue rolling.
Sold.
However you do it. I don't care how you do it.
Moving on to other exciting things this week. Kevin, we have been lifting heavy things up and putting them down in Boston.
PAX East is this weekend. PAX is a super cool gaming show. Everything from, racing games to role-playing games to board games, everything. So
Hardware,
all kinds of stuff. So we've partnered up. We've got Thrustmaster. We've got Sparco. Who else we have helping us out?
We have a huge list. Precision Sim Engineering. We've got PT Actuator. We've got ProSim with Adrian Quaif sent us one of those really crazy, heavy duty shifters. We have
all kinds of cool stuff. So we've got our booth that's almost set up. I think Greg's going back to finish it and tidy it up this afternoon. But we've got a nice display to show people that don't know anything about iRacing, what it takes to get in. Everything from a desk setup to a kind of a static rig setup to a full motion rig. So we like to show people that you can get into it pretty inexpensively, but you can also go pretty crazy if you want to. So it should be a good time. We're there for 4 days. If you're in Boston, check it out. I think there's still tickets available if you haven't bought them. PAX East is the name of the show.
Oh, I have to shout out Richard too, SimLab. He's the one that sent us the chassis.
SimLab chassis.
Richard,
for sure.
sorry, don't throw things at me.
That is going to be a fun chassis for everybody to drive. And what is it? Booth 22077.
I think that's right.
How did you remember that?
Because Dougie sent me the email.
Wow, good
Yeah,
for
he-
you.
he told us
He's
like
the king
15
of
times.
remembering things like that.
Obscure information.
You guys are going to start calling me Rain Man around the office now, and
Well,
I shouldn't have even said
that's
that.
an upgrade from what we normally call you. So.
That is
ouch,
true.
Ouch, ouch. But anyway, yeah, come to the show if you're around. It'll be fun. We'll post some. Oh, Greg just broke my pen. Anyway, we'll post some stuff on social for sure. We're trying to get Doug to promote our new TikTok channel. So check it out.
We did hire some consultants on that, Steve Meyer's daughters.
Yes.
They're trying to
And
teach
so
us.
far they've been doing better posts than Doug. So we may, just saying.
Harsh.
All right, moving on. We got a couple good interviews for you. Chris, you threw an audible in here. I can't look at Kevin because he's got the pen in his hand.
I can't believe you broke my pen.
I can't believe I broke your pen. Chris, tell us about who you interviewed.
Alrighty, so for the first interview, and yes, we did kind of throw an audible based on the results of our race at Auto Club. We are going to go to the race-winning team first and foremost, Burton Kligerman eSports, starting with race winner Ashton Crowder, his second career win, and a win second year in a row, and his teammate Logan Clampett, who was kind of the hometown favorite at Auto Club, and unfortunately got caught up in one of the wrecks.
He was having a good run before that.
Having a terrific run before that.
Yeah.
He was leading a bunch of laps. I think they spent about a third of the race in the front of the field with those beautiful looking Valvoline cars. They just remind me of the Mark Martin cars I used to watch growing up. So without further ado, interview number one, we will throw it to Charlotte from preseason media day with Ashton and Logan. All right, here at eNASCAR Media Day with the Burton Kligerman eSports teammates, Logan Clampett, Ashton Crowder. How you guys doing?
Doing good, man. Happy to be here. Good to be here. Really good to be here. Never would have thought. And past few years.
It's certainly been a growing championship, and you guys a key part of it, especially last year, both being part of the draft with Burton Kligerman eSports. Jeff Burton, Parker Kligerman, the NBC Sports NASCAR commentators coming together to form this team. What has it been like for the two of you to be working for certainly one of NASCAR's most talented drivers in the 90s, early 2000s, and now one of NASCAR's most prominent media voices in Jeff Burton and Parker Kligerman, who probably has the most fun, I think, of anybody in motorsports. What's it like working for those guys?
Yeah, from my side, it's been absolutely incredible with them both being drivers. You know, you can really lean off of them and get a lot of knowledge that, you know, other teams might not be able to get from, you know, their owners, bosses, or what have you. So that's been really welcomed, and, you know, just progressing yourself race after race, week after week, and, you know, you really get that from Burton Kligerman eSports, so I'm really thankful.
Yeah, it's definitely really cool to be to have Parker and Jeff as a team owner, especially Jeff being a veteran in the NASCAR series, and Parker commentating and still part-time racing. It's really cool. You get tips and stuff from them. They're super cool, especially Parker, just super easy to communicate with, and he's just overall one of the coolest guys I think I've ever talked to and ever met.
No doubt. Now, 2019 season, interesting for everybody, not only with the team shakeups, but also just with the schedule, with this new Cup car. Take me through your respective seasons, since, both of you, it was really a battle out there for everybody. And I think people didn't really know what to expect towards the beginning of the season. And then, there were some really close battles towards the end of the year.
I'll go here. Yeah, it was a pretty steep learning curve for me. So, I came in through Road to Pro, not even really thinking I was going to make it, and then I did Pro, and then somehow, some way, I made it into Peak. And yeah, to be honest, I didn't really know what I was doing the first, quarter, half of the year. I just kind of went out there and tried to learn every race, and ended up wrecking out a lot. So that was pretty unfortunate. But after that, we just started to learn, and like I said, just progressing week after week, race after race, and got that win under our belt. And that's always the hardest, the first one. So yeah, it's really good, and just trying to put that out over to 2020 and do well this year.
With my past 4 years of experience, because my fourth year was 2019. having such knowledge and everything with the new then the new cup package came in, so it was a totally like different playing field. Like like you have everything dialed in for several years, 2016, 2017, 2018. In 2018 we were progressing really good towards the end. During the playoffs, I think my worst finish was sixth. Sadly, we didn't make the playoffs, but 2019 it was definitely a learning curve for sure, with the new cup package and dirty air and everything, and how we set up the cars. My team especially, that I work with, it was a struggle for us throughout the year to get the car set up the way it needed to. There were a few races where we had it set up, really good, Pocono and Indy, but unfortunately our races ended pretty early during Pocono, and Indy we ran out of gas. But the road courses and the short tracks, I think we had those figured out. But 2019 was, we had our ups and downs. But overall, it was definitely a learning season with the new cup package, like I said. So I'm looking forward to 2020 to see what we have.
Now, Ashton, I'm going to turn to you for a second. Obviously, you took that victory in Darlington, and both of you guys, first of all, had two of the coolest throwback schemes of that race. Each you honoring your, one of your team owners with their numbers and some of their past schemes. Now, I mean, Ashton, obviously, like you said, that first win is the hardest, but I'm sure it's also the most special. But how much more special is it to be able to earn it when you're not just doing something like where, it's my car. Like, this is also paying tribute to a car that Parker ran and a car that, had special significance to him.
Yeah, I with that car, I went through Racing Reference, the site that apparently doesn't exist, I've been told, but we go to it. And I was looking through and trying to find when he ran the 77, like what races he wrecked out in. Because I figured if he's going to wreck out in real life or something happened to him, that would just make it so much cooler to do well with, right? And sure enough, that's what happened. And it was really cool. And it worked out exactly how I thought it would. And I couldn't be happier, honestly. It was pretty neat.
Now, Logan, if there's anybody in iRacing who pretty much can wheel anything, you've been in multiple different iRacing World Championships, everything from, different World of Outlaws series to iRacing Rallycross to eNASCAR. You have to adapt to some very different driving styles when you jump from one to the other. What was it like last year for you competing in just multiple series throughout the year, and how much, how difficult is it to be balancing two world championships at the same time the way that you were?
Obviously my main focus was the NASCAR side of things, because that's, what was my main focus when I joined iRacing. So, at the beginning of the year, we had the Sprint Car World of Outlaws that we raced, which we're going to try and go for again this year. It wasn't, it was a bit iffy with my schedule and stuff like that, maybe like testing or something like that, and work. But overall, like transitioning, I feel like once you're used to it, I feel like all you need is just a few laps, and then you'll just get hooked right onto it, and you're back on track basically.
No doubt. Now, you also had some real world experience a little bit last year, where you had kind of the Mazda program. Tell us about how that went down, how you earned that, and what it was like to get behind the wheel there.
So basically, iRacing and Mazda hosted it was a hot lap challenge where they set up multiple time trials, and they chose the top 5 times, I believe. And I got in week 1, so I didn't have to really worry about, getting in like the next month or so. And then they brought in those, I believe it was 35 to 40 drivers into one race at Daytona, which is, like massive draft. So anything could happen. But we qualified pole for that race, which was super awesome. It gave us a big advantage. And thankfully, I pulled off a really good strategy move towards the end, got the win, which got me. So there were 2 different winners. There was me, which is the on-sim winner, and then there's an at-track winner who had the fastest lap at a sim. And so we got flown to the Rolex 24 by Mazda on iRacing, which was such a cool experience last year. And then we competed us two, we competed for the fastest lap, and whoever got the win in that got the test. Originally, it was supposed to be a VIR, but they changed it since I won. They changed it to the Thermal Club, which is more local, maybe like about an hour and a half away from me. So that's how I got the chance to test that. The test was just super awesome. I mean, I tested a dirt focus midget a few years ago, 2017, but the Mazda MX-5 test with, Mazda Motorsports and Joel Miller and everything, it was just a totally different experience, and it was so awesome. You got the clutch, H pattern, just totally different than, what I did in 2017, but it was just overall just a dream come true to do that test.
Now, I bring up some of the different stuff because I know Parker will drive anything and everything, whether he's filming Proving Grounds. I mean, the whole reason he's not here is because he is voicing the Dakar Rally Daily Recaps on NBCSN right now. So I figure Parker would approve of this question. Obviously there are multiple iRacing World Championships, but if you could pick one car or one spec that doesn't have an iRacing World Championship right now for each of you, if you could pick one and be able to say, like, yeah, if that one existed, I would go in that one and win the championship, which car would it be?
I don't know about win the championship, but I would love to see IndyCar because that series in real life is crazy. So, yeah, I'd love to see IndyCar. That'd be cool.
Mazdas. That's about the only thing I drive on road. I'm not going to lie. I don't drive anything else on the roadside besides the Mazda. But if there was a world championship in that, I'd race that so much more.
Mazda farmer.
Yeah, it's Mazdas are fun, man. Hey,
I respect it. Buddy Christian has a Mazda in real life, and he says it moves all over the place. So I respect it.
No doubt. Now, obviously, the quality of the field this year has just elevated so much. I mean, you guys have seen how this championship has just really grown and evolved, and how much more pressure there is, and how many names that were in this series 10 years ago, 8 years ago, have all come back. I mean, this is going to be the deepest field in eNASCAR iRacing World Championship history. So what's it going to take, not even just to be at the top when all is said and done in Phoenix, what's it going to take just to make sure that you're back in that top 20 come the end of the season?
It's going to take a lot of strive and just motivation to build our setups and stuff like that, because people are going to try harder, obviously, with all the money involved and stuff like that, and all the eyes, and more broadcasts on NBC. So people are going to try harder. There's more competition this year in the field. People returning from finishing in top 20 in peak last year, and then the top 20 in pro was also very strong. You have old guys coming back, like you mentioned, like Steve Sheehan, John Gorlinski, Brad Davies, who was still in it, and then you had one more. I forget.
Bob Bryant.
Bob Bryant, yeah. So they see how it's growing and stuff. So they're coming back, and they were all they all ran up front. Back when they ran. So it's definitely different for them, I feel like, too, with all these new names and stuff like that. But I feel like you said, it's going to be a really tough field to race around. It seems like all the names this year have been, really fast in the past in official races and stuff like that.
I mean, that's what's unique about iRacing, though, is like, that's different from real life, is you can have somebody that 10 years ago was, on the top, and they can take a break and then come back and be just as competitive. So, yeah, it's going to be really tough. Last year was really tough, and, the field has just gone up and up and up, and it's grown and grown. So it's going to take a lot more to just stay in the top 20, but I think it all just comes down to putting in the time and getting the consistent finishes and, just doing what you need for the team, and success will come from that, I feel like.
All right, Logan Clampett, Ashton Crowder, Burton Kligerman eSports. Before we let you go, how do we follow you guys? How do we follow the team?
Yeah, Burt Klig eSports for Twitter, for Burton Kligerman eSports, and then Ashton Crowder for me on Twitter, Ashton Crowder 27 on Snapchat, Instagram, pretty much everything else that's not Twitter, including Twitch. I lost my old Twitch channel, so it's Ashton Carter 27 now. But yeah.
You can follow me, Logan Clampett, on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. It'll be LClampett44. And then, as Ashton mentioned, you can follow Burton Kligerman eSports at Burt Klig eSports on Twitter and all social media platforms as well to get all the information you need and try and keep up with us and root for us.
All right, Logan, Ashton, it has been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Awesome stuff from those guys. I guess we will just roll right into that second interview, and we will go to the Wood Brothers Racing teammates.
Oh, let's talk about John Wood for a second. John Wood had a little fun yesterday on Twitter.
I think we all had a little fun on Twitter there.
Yeah,
so.
and I think Chris got blamed for Doug's work.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of had the whole, what is it, when you got two guys in the outfield calling for a fly ball and they're not paying attention.
Two people logged into the iRacing Twitter account at the same time.
See,
can be dangerous.
Yeah, because I thought Dougie had handed it off to me, but he ended up seeing some of the tweets with John, and it was going back and forth.
Because he was on his phone instead of putting together
Ah.
furniture.
Yeah. No, I just roasted Steve Luvender with the whole lasagna Crocs thing. So
that was funny.
Sorry, Steve, but the rule is if we ever hand him the Twitter account again, he cannot delete that. That is a rule. That is the only funny joke I've ever told in my life. I do not want...
True story.
It is true. I do not want the record of it to go away.
Screenshot it.
Yeah.
All right, so Chris, without further ado...
Yep. Garrett Lowe, Chris Overland, both of them had fantastic runs at Auto Club. Great teammates. Garrett joining that Wood Brothers Racing team this year after moving over from Renegades. Chris, a holdover from the previous year. Both great guys. They mesh really well. Two of my favorite personalities in the series. Chris will always shoot straight with you. And, Garrett's really come into his own as a fantastic driver and a great personality, too. So, we'll go back to Charlotte with Garrett and Chris. All right, back here at eNASCAR Media Day with brand new Wood Brothers teammates, Chris Overland, Garrett Lowe. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah,
for sure.
I know that you guys just kind of put ink to paper and actually just made the announcement less than an hour before we grabbed you for this interview.
Yeah, actually legitimately put pen to paper. I know a lot of people did the digital signatures, and John was like, nah, we can't be doing that. We gotta make it a thing, and I'm excited. I'm very excited. There's nothing quite like that feeling. I feel like Ezekiel Elliott. Maybe not as good, but...
Yeah, it was good to get down there and meet John and be able to get a little bit on the paper. Also introduced to each other for the first time as well, besides dinner last night, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Getting to know everybody here at the media days. It's good to see put names with faces and get to introduce team members, teammates, and as well as people leading these teams.
No, obviously both of you guys in the Pro Series last year, but 4 different teams. Garrett, you've moved over from Renegades. Chris, you're returning to your traditional 16. So, Garrett, that puts you in the 21. So you've kind of got some big shoes to fill. That's a historic number, and you are taking over from 4-time Mr. Ray Alfala. So no pressure, right?
Yeah, for sure. No pressure at all. Filling big shoes, like you said, but I'm prepared for it. I think we can handle it pretty well. Got a good team under our feet, and I think that that's just going to be able to promote us all the way through this season and get us where we need to be to run for a championship.
And Chris, returning to that 16 that you definitely had that towards the front a few times last year.
Yeah, actually, the best shot that I had to win a race, I got beat by Garrett. So it was something like 200ths of a second or so. So when John told me that we were going to be adding Garrett, I was excited because I had Ray Alfala last year, but I've been chasing Ray for years, and it's almost like I'm tired of it. I need somebody new to chase after and try to emulate and be as good as and strive to compete with. So adding Garrett's definitely going to be a boost to this team, and I think that him and I are going to work together very well. okay, we're going to have 3 plate tracks, so we're going to have a lot of time to spend together on the racetrack working together. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
No doubt. And I mean, it's funny because you guys kind of have totally different backgrounds in that, Garrett, last year was your first full season. And Chris, you've been a mainstay of this series for a super long time. So, I mean, I guess I'll start with Garrett. Obviously, you know, coming into this series for 2018 or 2019 rather, I mean, what was it like, the competition level, you know, seeing that series for the first time and having to get used to the guys around you, and just how high was that level?
The level was extremely high, much higher than I expected the first few weeks. I'm familiar with some of the people through the Pro Series and through the Road to Pro Series before that, the previous year, but getting into the series for the first time, it was a huge change of just the environment. It's a lot more competitive, a lot more people you're not familiar with, and trying to learn to race with different people and learning the faces and who's all associated with each other, especially with the draft last year, mixing things up. It was really good to experience that, and I think it prepared me well for this year.
And Chris, you've been in this series for a majority of its history. You're going to be making your 100th start this season. How much has that level of competition really changed since you made your very first start?
God, am I really? Has it been that long? Oh, man. Yeah, I started in 2012 was my first season. I was 16 years old. So to see what it's like, I actually had talked about this earlier in the week, to see how things have changed and how quickly it's changed from, you know, just 40, 50 guys in 2012 showing up and doing a race, and the winner at the end gets 10 grand. Everybody else goes home and gets to say that they participated. And now it's like, hey, we're going to fly you guys all out to Charlotte. We're going to have everybody in the same room. We're going to have, you know, these people you've been racing with for years. I'm blown away. And then when it comes down to the racing, everybody is just more motivated by all of this. So it's, I told everybody this week, is like, as soon as the green flag drops, clean slate for everybody. But I'm not giving you room. I'm not giving you room. We're racing for big money. So it is very serious. You can feel how serious it is. You can feel how everybody's having fun, but there's that little bit of anxiousness.
Yeah.
So, and it's just going to get more anxious and more anxious until the green flag drops in Daytona.
Now, working with the Wood brothers, I mean, the oldest team in NASCAR history, Guinness World Record verified. I hope John's listening so he knows that I've mentioned that, because I know he put in a ton of work to make that happen. You know, it's got to be special for both of you guys. Obviously, again, Chris, you're returning, so, you know, you've built that relationship with John. But Garrett, obviously, you coming in with this team, I mean, there are teams of all sorts of different backgrounds in this series. There's, you know, there are professional eSports teams that compete at the highest level. There are Cup teams. There are Cup drivers with teams. But there's a certain heritage, you know, that's associated with the Wood brothers, with all the championships that they've won, with all of the different drivers that they've had. I mean, how special is it to have your name as a part of that legacy?
It's super important to me. I think Wood Brothers is a staple of NASCAR. I mean, that's the grassroots. When you think of NASCAR, you think Wood Brothers. Been around for a long time, has a deep history in the sport. I mean, they have two amazing owners being part of this series and part of this team that have really developed it over the years and continue to even today. And I think that's something that looks forward to moving to eSports as well and getting into eNASCAR. I think that's great for them to venture out into that area.
Well, John was just telling me about how when iRacing was putting this whole deal together, that it was started out with John and iRacing talking and Wood Brothers wanting to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially the Wood Brothers' history throughout NASCAR. If there was something new to be done, Leonard and Glenn Wood were involved in one way or another. And, I mean, when it came down to the draft a year ago, and Wood Brothers told me, you know, hey, we're selecting you with our final pick. We want you to be a part of our team. It like my heart sank. It was just like, where else would you want to go? Mm-hmm. So there was no question this year. I was going to the Wood Brothers. I maybe played it off a little bit, you know, for a little fan service here and there. But the Wood Brothers is definitely, I mean, it's a prestigious thing, like Garrett said, and it's NASCAR history. And to be part of NASCAR history, it's beyond words.
And Chris, I want to turn to you for a second, because not just NASCAR history for you with the Wood Brothers, but eNASCAR history, because, again, you're one of the veterans of the series, and you're kind of the mouthpiece for a lot of the drivers, where a lot of the drivers trust you. A lot of the drivers want to give you feedback, and you haven't been afraid to share it. You haven't been afraid to share constructive criticism. Everybody's pulling in the same direction.
Yeah.
But, how did you kind of become that mouthpiece where guys sort of started coming to you, and, how did you sort of develop the relationship with the people running the series to be able to have those conversations?
Well, to be honest, when I first started in the series, I was just the mouthy little kid. It's like, oh, there goes Chris going on another tangent. And I'm sure there's some people who, they still feel like, maybe Chris should tone it down a little. But there's a lot of things that the drivers feel, the drivers like, voicing their opinion on. But it seemed like there was nobody who was willing to take that next step and bring that to iRacing and say, hey, I noticed that this is on the schedule at this time. We would all really prefer it if it was a little closer to this time. There were some night races last year, or not last year, and previous, that we had turned into day races because the drivers preferred the lack of grip in the day races. So just a couple things like that. And then when it comes down to this whole situation, the group chat that we're in, making plans to go to dinner and things like that, it just kind of seems like everything gravitates towards me, and I'm like, oh, man. But I really don't know where it happened. It probably is just the fact that I like to talk. But I embrace it, and I've got some good relationships with the iRacing staff. Me and Tyler Hudson talk a lot. Me and you have talked a lot leading up to this. And just being in the series so long, I've got to know everybody. So it's not very hard to get somebody's ear, especially not with a big mouth like mine. So, but I take pride in it, yes.
And Garrett, obviously, you're not just a world championship driver in eNASCAR, but you've been right at that top level in rallycross too. Right. And as a North Carolina boy, obviously, obviously it's special for you to be working with another team from the South and the Wood Brothers. But on the rallycross side, I've got to mention, because you've grown that relationship. You ran the Low and Bro Motorsports colors in IRX, and you've really gone above and beyond in trying to grow that relationship. So sort of how has that come together? And how does that, working with another team in another series, how does that relationship kind of carry over to what you're going to do with Wood Brothers, where you're used to working with a team like that?
Right. Well, with the rallycross stuff, it was a little bit different. I wasn't really prepared to know that we were going to have professional teams coming in at all, and to hear that they were coming in the series was fantastic. I think everyone was really excited, and to be selected by Low and Bro Motorsports as their driver for me was a huge honor. And to be able to work with them, they're a great team to work with, and they're a small team, but they're powerful. And I think that correlates to Wood Brothers as well. Small, usually a one-car team in the Cup Series, but a bit powerful, and their namesake is huge in the Cup Series. You know who they are, and same way with Lone Bro. And so I think the two connections there is much stronger now that I'm with Wood Brothers Racing, and I'm glad to be here.
For sure.
You couldn't pay me to drive those things. They're terrifying.
They're fun. I love them.
I can't do it, man.
I'm not good at road racing, but for some reason rallycross, it's like, grab a gear, hit some jumps, we're good to go, kick it out sideways.
So you actually made the visit to the Low and Bro Motorsports shop, too, a couple of months ago. So what was that like?
Oh, that experience was great. I got to meet Steve, all his team, engineers, everybody. I didn't realize how small their team was. I knew it was small, but I didn't realize it was 6 or 7 people small. And they have, the shop's not huge, but it's got enough to fit all that they need. And they have some great programs going on. I was excited to hear some things about rallycross moving forward in America and worldwide as well. Some cool things to hear with WRX. So motorsports is looking good. I think it's moving in the right direction, and especially getting involved in eSports like we've been talking about. That's huge because that keeps everybody from different perspectives kind of connected to the same thing, and that's good to have when you're building a motorsports, anything at all, really.
Definitely, and like you mentioned, obviously, even down to the manufacturer, very much like Wood Brothers, where it's kind of the small but mighty team.
Right, and I think that the small but mighty teams, sometimes you underestimate them, and a lot of times people assume me as the underdog as well. And so I think that fits me pretty well. But Chris here, the veteran of the series, you know who he is. Like you were talking about earlier, I know a lot of the younger drivers are in the series, haven't been in here as long, kind of lean on some of the veteran drivers a little bit to kind of voice their opinion, because we don't have much priority when it comes to pecking order. And so we kind of lean on them to kind of, hey, is this a good idea? What should we talk about this? Maybe move in this direction. And I think that's veteran drivers are good to have for that as well.
Even if it's a bad idea. Oh, get Chris to tell him. Like, let him take.
Hey, that's fair. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to try different things. I mean, that's the whole reason we're in Charlotte in the first place. This is totally different. I mean, I know that you guys are just kind of getting started, but, with your media day commitments, but just from what you've seen so far, I mean, what has this day been like, and how is it really setting the tone for 2020?
Well, I think the tone was set when we kind of announced the prize pool.
Oh yeah,
Everyone's eyes kind of popped out of their sockets for a second. Like, hold on, like, whoa, that's a lot of money. Definitely raised the stakes. People definitely, you feel a little bit more tension. But getting to meet everybody, you kind of know we're all here for the same purpose. We're here to grow the series and grow the sport. But we're also here because we're competitive, and we're going to want to race each other hard each week. But I think building the respect off the track, I think, is just as important as it is on the track. So being able to meet people that you may have had a feud with in the past has been pretty cool. And everyone is all here for a good time. And I think we're going to have an even better time the next couple of days.
Yeah, so far so good. We haven't had any altercations with anybody yet. But we're going to GoPro Motorplex tonight, so who knows? We may have some helmets thrown. But it's very exciting. I'm so proud of where this series has come. Getting to meet all these people that I've been racing with for nearly a decade now it's almost unfathomable.
Well, I mean, we trust you guys. Nobody fought over the PS2 in the hotel.
Oh,
did they?
goodness.
You had a streak going. You were on that for a few races.
Yeah, I try to hit the PS2 as much as I can, so I've got a little bit of an advantage. So I won't toot my horn on that, because when it comes to the stuff that matters, I'm not normally one of the contenders. But we're gonna change that this year.
All I know is I handed the controller to you, and I don't think it left your hands after that.
It might not have. I had to go to bed at some point, though.
All right, Garrett Lowe, Chris Overland with Wood Brothers. Guys, before we sign off, just tell us how to follow you. Tell us how to follow Wood Brothers Racing, Wood Brothers Gaming.
Yes, so on Twitter, it's GarrettLowe_6. And on Facebook, it's my racing page as well as my iRacing. It's Garrett Lowe Racing. I don't have Instagram yet, but I got to work on that. I think we'll get that here soon.
I've got Chris Overland 47 on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. It is COR47, Chris Overland Racing 47. And Wood Brothers, of course, Wood Brothers Racing, Wood Brothers Gaming, John Wood on Twitter. Don't bother him, though. Send all that stuff to me. I'll take it to him.
You're his enforcer.
No, I won't go that far. I won't say that.
He's the filter.
Yeah, I'm the filter.
You are the gatekeeper.
Yes.
All right, guys. Garrett Lowe, Chris Overland. It has been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having us. Yep.
Always good to hear from John Wood's boys. Moving on, though, real world recap. A lot of things going on the ovals this weekend. Chris, let's start with Ty.
Yeah, awesome for us to be able to resume that relationship with Ty Majeski on the NASCAR National Series level. I mean, we've been a frequent supporter of what he does in the super late model side of things, and Ty celebrating SLM win number 100 earlier this year, but we've followed him to Nice Motorsports for a multi-race deal that kicked off in Las Vegas. He's run that 45 truck full-time, had a great year in ARCA last year to kind of propel himself back up to the truck level, and had a solid finish, had a solid run in Las Vegas, finished 13th, was really knocking on the door of that top 10 throughout the race. So awesome for Ty to show up and really show what he's got this year, and I think it's going to be a great season for them.
Yeah, it's a good team. They've got good equipment. Their cars run strong. So I think it's a great opportunity for Ty, and it's, like you said, it's exciting for us to be part of it. He's been a strong supporter of iRacing since forever, right? I mean,
right.
Obviously, people probably know his story about, his. I think he has the 2 highest I ratings in the history of iRacing, or at least they were at one point. So he's quite the iRacer. Specializes in super lates and lates. And in the real world is now has 100 wins in super lates, which is pretty darn impressive. The guy can drive, so it's cool to be associated with him. He's a great guy. If you see him at the track, say hi, let him know that you're an iRacer. I'm sure he'd be happy to chat with you.
We also had great racing up at the Cup Series at Las Vegas. A couple of eNASCAR team owners had pretty good weeks.
Yeah, we had the Wood Brothers in P2 with Matt DiBenedetto, as we've mentioned, but also JTG Doherty Racing with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. That combination we're only 2 races into the season, but they've really started paying dividends. I mean, they had the pole in the 500. Ricky was running up front up there. Managed that 3rd place finish in the Cup race at Las Vegas. So I'm expecting big things from them. I think Ricky just might have what it takes to put that team back in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I mean, after 2 races, it seems like it's a good match between the team and the driver. You never know when somebody switches teams and how that's going to work. But so far, so good. Pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I know that, Ricky kind of didn't expect to be switching teams this offseason, and we kind of all know that, but he is making the most of the opportunity, and that's all you can ever ask for from a newcomer. But I
heard somewhere on the broadcast that they've got about a third of the employees working for them compared to some of the big dogs, so it's impressive for them to be running up front and putting on a good show. It's awesome.
Always like the underdog stuff. And going back to Matt Benedetto, I think he's going to get his first race win this year. He's got good equipment, got the Wood Brothers equipment underneath him, and he showed that he can be competitive in decent equipment, and now he's got good equipment. So I'm looking forward to him getting in victory lane at the top level this year.
Yeah, I think it's a safe bet.
So moving on to the week ahead, NASCAR going to Auto Club. I feel like we saw a pretty good preview of what we're gonna see. We've pretty much hit the nail on the head of how the racing's gonna be. We're 2 for 2. Chris?
Yeah. No, we tend to, and it's a testament not only to what our programming team, what our engineers do to make this sim as realistic as it is, but also to NASCAR, to all the teams, to everybody involved in the real world for giving us the right information, to work with to provide the best experience possible. But I think we're going to see another great race. I think we're going to see some exciting battles for the lead. I just hope that they're able to live up to what Ashton and Garrett Lowe were doing in those final couple of laps, because they were trading the lead a few times with just a few laps to go. If we get anything like that as a battle for the race win in the real world on Sunday, then we are in for a heck of a show.
So who's your pick for the weekend?
Oh, that's a good question. I might say, I don't know. I'm kind of riding the Matt DiBenedetto momentum wave. I'm going to go out in left field, and I'm going to say this is the weekend for the 21 car.
There you go.
I think Stenhouse. He's been running strong. I think it's
those were my 2 picks, but I'm going to go with Danny Hamlin. So
Danny Hamlin. Love Danny Hamlin. My favorite.
Not related to eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series team owner Denny Hamlin?
No, not at all.
Not at all?
Different guy. We also have a couple good special events coming up this weekend. We have the BMW, formerly known as the BMW 120, now the BMW Sim 120 Cup, featuring the BMW M8 GTE. It's a 2-hour team event. I've got about $6,400 on the line once again. Looking forward to that. That's on Sunday, 8 a.m. Eastern, 1300 GMT.
Shout out to BMW for supporting this and putting this, kind of pushing us to put this together. So it's awesome to have them behind this.
Florian and Timo, if you're listening, there it is. There's
there
your
you go.
Shout out. We appreciate it. They always put on a good time. So I enjoy this series though. It's
fun.
It's just a couple races throughout the year. They put a little cash behind it, and also the winning team has an opportunity to go to their year-end award show in Munich. So that's pretty cool. You can't just go to that for funsies.
Yeah, 6 opportunities. We had 2 of these races last year, and the community showed up, and BMW, really went to bat for us to expand this schedule to 6.
Yep. We also have the 12 Hours of Sebring the following weekend, and then IMSA decided to get in a little bit more, and we have the Sebring 90, which will be on Sunday, which is going to feature the Audi RS3 LMS TCR and the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport.
Whoa, well done.
There you go.
It's like I've typed those 2 words a million times.
I could see that your brain was hurting trying to get all those words together.
More than you know. More than you know. So we got a 90-minute race, not a team event for those of you that were clamoring for just an individual kind of endurance type event. It should be pretty good. They put some prizes on there. We have a landing page for it. So check it out on iRacing.com/IMSA90 for more details. It's also watch the Twitter, watch the Facebook, all the social medias, etc., etc. Well, thanks again for listening to another episode of the iRacing Downshift, episode 20. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else Chris has put this thing. For Kevin Bobbitt, Chris Leone, I'm Greg West. We'll see you at the track.